I've never seen a diamond in the flesh. I cut my teeth on wedding rings in the movies, and I'm not proud of my address.
We're not just building muscle, we're building men. In the quiet hours, in the unfiltered moments, in the conversations that happen before the world wakes up. This is The Gloom, where brotherhood forms in the dark so we can lead in the light, where vulnerability is strength and leadership is handed from man to man, one story at a time. Our mission is to empower, exhort, and inspire men to achieve their best selves through stories of reinvigorated male community leadership. We bring you weekly interviews with F3 Omaha PACs, ordinary men doing extraordinary things in fitness, fellowship, faith, and leadership, because we believe that every man has a story, and reinvigoration starts when that story is shared. This is The Glue in the Gloom. Shout out to our sponsors, Exclusively Eye Care, Major Team Mortgage, Liberty Core Real Estate, Avior Wealth Management, and Omaha Laser Dentistry. We appreciate their support. Yo, Gloom listeners, it's the Plague, and today I'm talking about getting your finances as fit as your physique. Our very own F3 Omaha brother Jean-Claude, aka Michael Pfluger at Avior Wealth Management, specializes in building personalized financial plans. He understands the journey you walk in life as a man of faith, safeguarding your family and creating a legacy. Jean-Claude is ready to help you plan your finances with intention so that you can live with purpose. And that's just the beginning when you work with the Avior Wealth team. Visit avior.com/F3. That's AVIOR.com/F3 and see how Michael can guide your financial journey today. Now let's get back to the gloom.
And we're back. I'm excited to get this guy's story. I know, we were talking, and if he has to get up in a hurry during this, we'll know that there's some lives that need to be saved. But also have really enjoyed this. Pretty cool to see this guy and his son out there in the gloom. And I know we've had some fun with different nicknames and all of that sort of stuff. But just really appreciate my man Patty Mayo, and excited to see you on today. And why don't you take us back to that kind of EH journey? What was that story like? And then would love to hear about the first workout and how'd they land on the name Patty Mayonnaise.
Yeah, well, Plague, I can't thank you enough for this opportunity. I've been so excited for this since you reached out, sincerely. And I mean, it's really provided me an opportunity to kind of reflect on my F3 journey, if you will. So, so let's dive in. So funny enough, I had never heard a thing about F3. And I'm a runner. I was in the gym a little bit at Lifetime. I'm a workout kind of guy. And as we'll come to, I should have known about F3. I didn't know a thing about it. Not a thing. Had never seen the emblem. I mean, it's everywhere, right? And yet it never caught my eye. And as we'll talk about, I wish it had caught my eye years ago. But no, one night I'm at a work dinner. Nice dinner, having a great steak, and an old fashioned or two, and just sitting there with Joe Anderson, pit stop.
Okay.
And we're just kind of talking about our families and work related stuff and whatever else, but somehow working out and running and stuff kind of comes up. And so he starts telling me about hey, I'm in this kind of men's workout group. You ought to think about coming sometime. And he starts telling me about it. And he's like, hey, I'm going tomorrow morning. You want to join me? Put down my old fashioned. I think that was number 3. And I'm like, yeah, let's do this. So, he's kind of describing to me. I went to the Armory. He's kind of describing this to me. He's like, now the workout starts at, 5:30, but we're going to ruck before at 4:45. He's like, I'm like, yeah, I'll be there. And I'd never rucked before.
Oh yeah.
And, as I'll maybe share with you, Pit Stop did a ton to really help me kind of, fall into the fold with F3. But I'm telling you, it was just like, a cold EH at a dinner meeting on a Thursday night that kind of got me in this chair today.
That's awesome. I love it. It is funny how how it comes up, right, kind of randomly, and then sometimes not randomly at all, right? You're actually like trying to convince a guy to come out. But what so first workout was at Armory and you did
Yeah,
a pre-ruck.
yeah.
What was that experience like? Was it were you
Oh, it was awesome. So, I got there early, met with, Joe, pit stop, and he brought a, rucksack for me, and there were like four of us. I think Escobar was there, and I'm pretty sure it was Kickstand that was there as
Hmm,
well. Um, and we rucked, the kind of the usual Armory ruck, if you will, and just good conversation. And I mostly listened in because here I am, friendly new guy.
yeah,
But just kind of listening into the ruck and just kind of getting a sense for what I was going to be doing. So it
yeah.
was really good introduction to a group of high impact men, and a little bit of foreshadowing in terms of what was going to come with my
Yeah.
first beatdown.
Yeah. What was the workout like? Do you remember who was
So it
cueing
was
or
Light Bright on the queue,
okay.
and funny enough, I got to see Light Bright this morning. But it was Light Bright on the queue, and it was a typical beatdown. And I mean, it was good. It was a
Cool.
great workout. Little bit of a blur, if you will,
Yeah.
but I mean, it was a good workout. I remember finishing the workout, after a rock and the workout, feeling like, hey, this is good. I mean, I used some muscles I hadn't used in a while, and felt great. To come to the part about patty mayonnaise, so I got in the circle and started telling them about myself, and I don't remember everything that came up, but I
Yeah.
mean, I've got a couple of tattoos, and I'm married, and I've got 5 kids, and yeah, I'm a physician, and where'd you train? Went to Creighton, did all my training at the Mayo Clinic. Well, Mayo, and
Yep.
then mayonnaise and, whatever. And then some out of nowhere, I was like, patty mayonnaise. And it stuck, and love it. Wouldn't change it in a moment.
Yeah, and that is it a little bit from the like, there is this old cartoon, Doug,
Yeah,
right? It's
Doug.
kinda where that's
Yeah.
from?
So it took me months. I mean, I have 5 kids, and I mean, I watched Doug, but it was a while before I
Yeah.
went looking like Patty Mayonnaise. Who is that anyway?
Right.
But I did go looking and found the cartoon, and the really girly cartoon of
Yeah,
Patty Mayonnaise on Doug.
that's funny.
And yeah, it's stuck, and it's been a great name.
That's awesome.
And yes, it's been part of my journey and my arrival to F3, if you will.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a good name. It could always be worse, right? I mean, some guys have definitely left with worse, nicknames, right?
Yeah, no, absolutely.
Well, so, you mentioned this a little bit at the beginning, but you were leading up to this point, what was your fitness? You were in pretty good shape and kind of would run and work
Um,
out regularly?
I will tell you what, Joe found me at the right time.
Hmm,
Um, because in that moment and kind of leading up to that, I had some sad clown in me,
yeah.
as we can talk about. I have had moments where I've been pretty fit. I mean, I've run a few marathons, leading up to that. I've run a marathon or maybe two since then. So I mean, I've been pretty fit, but I kind of had let things go leading up to that.
Hmm,
Maybe wasn't in the best place with my job. Um, I mean, I had good friends kind of coming into it, but just friends that I didn't see real often. And I got a pretty demanding job. I've mentioned I got 5 kids. I mean, I got a lot on my plate.
yeah.
So it's real easy for me to say no before I say yes.
Mm,
Um, and that was actually one of my COTs not too long ago. But
nice.
anyway, it was sort of a default to yes. But previously it's kind of been a default to no when my friends would reach out and those sorts of things. So to find a new group of men and to work out at a time that works for me
Yeah.
was huge.
Yeah. Tell me a little bit when you talk about, being a sad clown leading up to F3. What do you mean by that, or what were you going through?
Well, I mean, again, I wasn't in a great place in my job. I was coming out of the pandemic as a pulmonologist.
Hmm,
Those were some dark times, I can tell you that.
Yeah.
I think I was maybe a little more burnt out than I recognized.
Hmm.
I think I had let some relationships dwindle just a little bit, friendships. My wife and I have been solid, but, friendships kind of let that dwindle. And I mean, I kind of let myself go. I think I was over 200 at the time,
Hmm.
which is an unhealthy weight for me. I mean,
Yeah.
I like to be about where I'm at right now, which I'm down about 20 pounds from that time frame. So yeah, I guess those are the main things I think. And quite honestly, I'll be honest, I mentioned three old fashions. I think maybe I was getting after it a little bit more at the time as a result of sort of everything I just explained.
Yeah. Yeah, it is. It's interesting. The pandemic, that was sort of like, it was like everybody kind of had their hands in the air, like, I don't know what else to even do. Like everybody, a lot of people I've heard kind of say that's where they found themselves in the pandemic, sort of turning to alcohol or whatever.
Yeah.
Well, I love that you found the group and, man, that first ruck, I'm just thinking, right, you're jumping into this conversation with these 3 amazing guys, right? And I'm sure they were, I don't know, depending on what they were talking about, right? Could have been serious, could have been joking around, but what, what was your next post? Do you remember? Like,
Yeah.
what was the
Oh,
second post like?
yeah. So, I mean, I dove right in, man. So, I mean, I was kind of sore over the weekend. Monday morning, I went to Mission Forge
Mm,
and, they invited me, like, well, hey, Monday we're going to go to Mission Forge. We usually start with a Murph. We pre with the Murph. We don't expect, I'm not, no, I'll be there for the Murph. So my
did you know what
second
that was?
workout,
Did you know
I
what a
did the
Merc was?
pre Murph, the Smurf at, Mission Forge and then a beatdown. And I'll be honest, I remember the Murph because it left a mark on me, if you will. I had never done a Murph before.
Yeah.
I don't remember that much about the beatdown, but I was beat down. Like I was tired after that workout for sure.
Yeah. What, had you heard of the Murph before, or were you just
No,
like,
I
"Sure, I'll
hadn't
do
even
whatever"?
heard of it. I mean,
Okay,
I have two brothers in the military, but I had never heard of a Murph before.
nice. And it lived up to its name, it sounds like.
Oh, it did. Absolutely. I mean, and of course I modified,
Yeah,
I did a Murph last Monday. I did all 100 pull-ups. Um,
nice.
I couldn't do that on my first Murph. I can guarantee you that.
Yeah, for sure. Well, and, within F3, we've got all sorts of different sites, right? So we got weights and coupons and, we even have more running sites and some rucking sites. How did you kind of navigate, or is this kind of like your group that kind of helped guide you through the next several posts?
Yeah, so I mentioned Pit Stop. I mean, he did such a good job. And, I need to be more mindful of this too. But I mean, he not only EH'd me and got me there that Friday morning, but I'm telling you, for weeks,
Mm,
that guy reached out. Here's where we're going. And I'm telling you, he even kind of modified his workout schedule a little bit to like get me to block party. Here, you got to come see what a coupon's all about.
yeah.
You know, get me to Wild Kingdom. Just get me to some sites in the area, meeting a few more members of the packs, but really to get a good introduction. And like, I am not terribly tech savvy, and it's not that, F3 Omaha is hard, and if anything, he probably spoon fed me a little bit too much, but like just reaching out, letting me know where they were going next. And I mean, I jumped in.
Mm, that's awesome. Yeah, it makes a difference when you have somebody, and I love how you said this, like not just get them to that first workout, but like help them kind of navigate. Cause if you
Yes.
don't know what a coupon is, or I mean, even just, give a little bit of background on what different sites might offer based on where the guy is at. I love that approach. Have you seen Pit Stop recently? I feel like I haven't seen him out as much.
So we've been texting a little bit. I have seen him. He came to my flag pass here not too long ago. I'm trying to think if I've seen him since, but we've texted a couple of times, and even like I said, reflecting on today. I
Mhm.
mean, I sent him a text like last week, just kind of telling him we were doing this episode today, and just really reaching out with gratitude to just thank him again for helping me get where I'm at today.
Mm.
So
Yeah.
we text a little bit. We've, had some phone conversations. We're more connected. I think, he works in AstraZeneca. I do a little engagement with AstraZeneca. So we have some work stuff that kind of crosses a little bit too, but his
Yeah.
his new leadership position is pretty straining on him, and he's got some pretty significant family, obligations as well. And when he's home, he's got to be present for them.
Yeah.
So he's got a lot on his plate right now, and that happens to many of us at different points. But he is still around. He's still on the chat in the group, and
Great.
you know he's there in spirit.
Yeah, for sure. Well, we'll be praying for him, thinking about family stuff. But one of the questions: you're not quite respect, are you? Or have you?
Coming up real quick, my friend. 6 weeks.
Okay, 6 weeks. Okay. Well, so I guess because what I was going to ask you, I think you've been through a lot of life, right? You got 5 kids. You're a physician. As you think about guys coming into F3 and just this idea of longevity, I would be curious, like, have you found a good rhythm where you feel like, okay, if I do these things, this really gets me on the path? What's that look like for you?
Yeah. I mean, what I am finding for a couple of reasons, I mean, I need to post 2 to 3 times a week.
Mm,
I like to post 4. I like to work out 5. I do a lot of running. My wife and I, we're training for a marathon. We're going to run another marathon in the spring now. Um, but but it's not just fitness.
mm,
I'll share with you, uh, I worked yesterday. I got home. I was a little grumpy. I was a little owly, a little edgy and irritable. I hadn't posted in 4 or 5 days.
mm,
Um, I would say that part of that had to do with the fact that I wasn't out there posting in the morning. And it's not just the workout. I mean, I did run. Well, I guess I haven't run since Catalyst in the rain, but nonetheless, that was part of it. But it's not just the exercise, it's being around other high impact men who have stuff going on. The mumble chatter, well how good that is for the soul, and kind of,
mhm.
working some stuff out there in the gloom and coming home, a better man.
Yeah. Yeah, it's the full package for sure. I'm the same way. I would be curious. I think your birthday's coming up. You have some plans to do
I do.
some ultra running. Tell me about that. Maybe we
Yeah.
could use this as a platform to kind of help get the word out for guys.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, I appreciate that opportunity. I do. I am trying to get the word out a little bit. So, you've got the halfway house this weekend,
Yeah, coming up.
September. I took the October halfway house, and I kind of did it deliberately. So let me step back for a second. I'm turning 50, November 2nd. The plan had been for my M and I to run a marathon that next weekend in California.
Mm.
So I've been training for that. She's been training for that. Well, unfortunately, she's got a stress fracture
Oh shoot.
um, in the femoral neck of her left hip, and she is not non-weight bearing. She's on crutches right now. It's unfortunately a fairly serious injury.
Yeah.
And so she's out, and I had been trying to get her to go check, first of all, to shut it down
Yeah.
a couple weeks before she finally did, because I mean, she's an animal. Um, and then she kind of drug her feet before going in, and she finally got an MRI, and they called her right away afterwards, like, you got to be non-weight bearing. This is a fairly serious injury.
Yeah.
Anyway, we called off the marathon. So then I thought, okay, I'm turning 50. When I turned 40, my goal was to run a Boston qualifying marathon and qualify for Boston. And I
Mm,
did that.
nice.
So that's what I wanted to do for 50. We were going to both go qualify for Boston again. So it's like, okay, I can't do that for my 50th. What am I going to do? And my wife and I were driving Hedge Fund. His name will come up, but that's my son. We're literally driving him to Marquette in Milwaukee, and we're driving home, kind of talking about turning off the marathon. What should I do next? And I'm like, I'm turning 50. I want to run a 50K. So
Yeah.
I've never run more than 26.2, like, ever. I haven't even gotten close to 26.3.
Yeah.
But I'm gonna run, 50K, which is a 31 miler, as part of the halfway house on October the 26th.
Okay. And are you gonna get up early and try to start early, or are you gonna
2:30 a.m., brother.
okay, so that's a night run there. That's what that calls for.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, so you had backcountry on here not too long ago,
Yeah.
and that was an awesome episode. I really enjoyed that. Yeah, but he alluded to his full marathon
Yeah.
as part of halfway house. He and Bouncer. So I did a 20 miler that morning when they did their full marathon, and I think Invictus and I started at 3:30, something like that. I mean, to set your alarm before 3 a.m. to go out and run,
Yeah.
who does that?
Yeah.
And yet, like, we don't even really think that much of it,
Yeah.
right?
Yep.
So I have a little bit of a plan for that, but yeah, I did the math, and I mean, to run 8:30 mile for 31 miles, I'm gonna start around 2:30 in the morning.
Okay. And if guys wanna sort of encourage you, cheer you on, show up for the regular halfway or start
Yep.
early or any
Yeah.
portion of that, I'm
So
sure.
yeah, I mean, I've been kind of waiting for you to have yours because I don't want to lead to any confusion.
Sure. Appreciate that.
But I do have a plan. Kind of a little bit of a theme for it. And gonna maybe offer a few different races if nobody else wants to jump in. But it came to mind. This might be the last really nice weather day for Halfway House. It
Mhm.
was November, I'm pretty sure, that we did, a full marathon. Invictus and I ran 20, and then there were the half and the 10 and the 5. So I want to offer a full if anybody wants to do it. Obviously the half, a 10 miler for those who want to do it, a 10K. I was thinking of offering a 10K ruck,
Oh, yeah.
because dang it, I'm blanking on the lake over here. Cunningham. Lake Cunningham is right at about 6.2 around.
Yeah.
So if guys want to come out, I kind of did the math on what that would look like. So, just some offerings for some people to maybe have an opportunity before the end of the year to do something they haven't done yet in 2025.
Yeah, I love it. Yeah, it's really cool too. That's one of my favorite things about halfway is just getting all the different, all different types of movement, right? Let's get the ruckers out, the runners out. If guys want to
Yep.
bike, they could do that too, right? I mean, I think there's all sorts of opportunity. Well, I'm hearing you say some of these names like Invictus, and I'm sure you've met up with Farva and Bouncer and all these
Oh, yeah.
guys. Talk to me about, when you think about that fellowship piece, talk to me about that. How did you kind of get to know guys outside of that initial like group of 3 or 4 and yeah, I guess what was that like? Did you go post around the region or what was your
I
process?
I have. I mean, I need to venture out a little bit more from Westo, but it's so comfortable, and I
Yeah.
have so many sites within like 10 minutes of my house. You may or may not know I live right on the maze.
Oh,
So I
okay.
live on that White Hawk Lake.
Nice.
Um, and, so on the one hand, I'm lazy if I can drive 10, 15 minutes. But on the other hand, it's really nice to to venture out. I queued Riptide like 3 weeks ago, and that
Oh,
was
yeah.
enjoyable. And I've met a group of guys, north. I've been to the farm. I mean, I should give myself credit. I have ventured out some. And yes, that is how I've met some of the PAX members whose names you've thrown out. But like Invictus, I didn't know him at all.
Hmm.
I was training for a marathon. I wanted to run a 20 miler. So and so had heard Invictus wanted to run a 20 miler. I literally met him that morning at Lake Cunningham running a 20 miler.
Nice. That's
And
awesome.
it was just him and I. And there was like it was a cool morning, cold. It actually snowed a little bit while we were out there.
Mm.
But I'd never met this guy, and I mean, within an hour, we're comparing notes on, relationships and friendships and religion, and you know how this works.
Yeah. Yeah. It's so fascinating. And that's maybe the the beauty of like doing something difficult or challenging, right, with a guy next to you, and then it just especially running for me has always been where that kind of fellowship piece just starts to kind of catapult into just deeper friendships. But what as you think about your life and maybe even just because you have 5 kids, but you have a mix of
Yeah.
boys and girls.
I do. So, and
Yeah.
it's even more complex than that.
Oh, okay.
Which, I guess if you go back to, almost 50, and I've lived a little. So I'm divorced and remarried. And,
Okay.
I talk about that openly, with other PAX members. So I have 3 children from my first marriage, 2 sons and a daughter.
Mm.
Got divorced, met my wife. We got remarried in 2017, and 2 days later, we ran the Boston Marathon together.
Nice.
And then shortly thereafter, we had our daughter and another son. So I have a 7-year-old and almost 5-year-old, in addition to my 2018 and 16-year-old.
Okay.
So we've got a lot going on in our house,
Yeah.
to say the least.
Yeah. I love it. Well, I wanted to get your thoughts on just the importance of, men taking time to build some of these deeper friendships. What has that meant to you throughout your life?
Yeah, it's been so impactful for me, Plague, and I really mean that. I mean, I have so much gratitude for having found, F3, but the men,
Mm.
the high impact men of F3. They have, I mean, undoubtedly, and my I think my wife would attest, made me a better man. Just with a tremendous amount of gratitude. Just to have an opportunity to go, talk to other guys who are a lot like me, other guys who have, similar stressors in their life. Um, it's had a huge impact for me.
Yeah. I love it. Do you have any advice for guys that are maybe they've been in F3, but they're not quite feeling the impact of those relationships? Anything you feel like maybe that you did early on that kind of helped take things to that next level?
Yeah. I mean, obviously I'm not afraid to chat, right? Here we are having this talk. I would, I mean, posing questions and listening goes a
Mhm.
long way
Yeah.
in developing relationship, right? So
Yeah.
I think one of the things I did best, was, not being overly shy, introducing myself, but really trying to be a good listener and trying to create that opportunity, the pre-running or just pre-workouts, or as you pointed out, probably where that happens best. Usually it's a small group, and a lot of mumble chatter can come about. But I guess just, being willing to listen, can go a long way in building more relationship, in my opinion.
Yeah. Yeah, sometimes I wonder, like the pre-activity, there are fewer distractions, and so then maybe that's what makes some of those bonds,
Yeah.
form so quickly is because you like, here we are running, right? My, I'm gonna listen because I don't have my phone, I don't have other, computer screens or tasks going on, and
Yeah.
but definitely something powerful to that listening piece.
Yeah, and then I think it's important to be vulnerable too.
Yeah.
I mean, on the one hand, I talk about listening. On the other hand, I would say share.
Hmm.
Because you may be keeping something in on the inside, something that happened, last night, last week, or there's something really serious going on in your life,
Yeah.
and you got to be vulnerable enough to share it.
Yeah.
And if you open up, there's a really good chance the guy running next to you is going to open up too. And I mean, that's where a real deep relationship, I think, is born.
Yeah. What I would be curious because you mentioned the divorce and then you've got, your kids span from 20, would you say 22 to 5?
So 20 to 5, yeah.
Okay. So I would be curious when you think about like the concentrica, you've got your wife in the middle and then you've got your kids. What does spinning all those plates look like for you?
Oh
How do you
man,
do that well?
there's a lot of complexity to it. I am so blessed. My wife's amazing. I mean, she's really in the middle,
Hmm.
and makes it all work. And early on, she and my ex-wife really worked hard to say, they're not really friends, but they are friendly with one
Mhm.
another. We have a group text. So they really together made it easy for my older kids to accept her,
Yeah.
as their stepmom. And so, that helped tremendously. Then we had two, children together.
Mm.
And so there's a little complexity there. And, my big kids going to be with their mom on certain weekends and these sorts of things. We have 50-50 custody and we try to be respectful of that. Although she lives a mile down the street from me and they just kind of float back and forth and, we just make it work.
Yeah.
But there is definitely some complexity there and, we've kind of learned to navigate that. And, I think maybe I have learned a little bit of wisdom that I could share with some other guys and how to try and make that work as best it can.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, we talk about the concentrica a lot, and I know early on we had some guys that were either divorced or not married, right? So that's sort of like, well, what's in the center for me, right? If I'm not
Yeah.
married and in that season, and I think it's always good to find other guys that have been through similar things. Did you ever get a chance to participate in the 3D?
Yeah.
It was like
D3.
yeah, D3, yeah.
So, yeah, I'm aware of it. I will tell you, I reached out to a couple of those guys individually
Mm,
as I was kind of hearing. And, when somebody shares that, during a prayer or something, I mean, I make it a I make take it upon myself to reach out to them individually. My intent was to go to a few of those meetings and try to, you know, um, tell a success story on what
mm,
that can look like on the other end. But I'm going to be honest, I never made it to a meeting. I still should, and I'd be happy to. And if anybody's listening to this episode, and I'd happily go have a coffee or a beer and and talk through things a bit.
yeah. Yeah, I'm sure from my understanding, that there's just a lot that you go through, emotionally, mentally, spiritually. I'm sure
Oh,
when you're going through that scenario, what I would be curious, what's something like as a guy, so like, from my perspective, right? But my divorce, and I think we all start this way or say this, but divorce isn't an option, right? My wife and I have worked through a lot of stuff, but how should I be? Like, what are the things I need to be mindful of or consider when other guys are talking about divorce so that I'm just respecting what they're going through and not, I don't know, does that make sense? Like
yeah, it
how could I be
does.
a better friend to a guy that's maybe going through that?
Yeah, I mean, being willing to listen.
Yeah.
Um, Certainly not being judgmental,
Yeah.
you know. Um, there's usually more to the story than what is maybe shared on day one,
Yeah.
right? I think we all place a lot of blame on, you know, the soon to be ex-spouse. I
Hmm.
was guilty of that a little bit. But with some reflection, I certainly see, what I brought to the table that contributed to our divorce. And I've told my ex wife that. I mean, I've apologized to her several times. And that's important. I mean, you got to come to terms with your own. But, that's kind of an inside job.
Yeah.
So I think as a guy listening in, maybe it'd be easy to listen and be like, whoa, have you thought about this? Or, hey, seen you getting it after a little bit on Friday night, or you've talked to me about such and such, distraction, let's say. You could just need to listen, you need to be supportive. But once a little relationship has been established, it's probably okay to push a little bit one way or the other. I
Mhm.
definitely am a proponent for marriage counseling. We did that a few times. I mean, I am not a proponent of divorce, and I will tell you that. Like, it's it's not probably, it is, it's the biggest failure of my life. And I've
Mm.
had a few failures. It is by far the biggest failure in my life. Now I look back and what a blessing it is to have 5 kids and an amazing wife and a
Yeah.
good, friendly relationship with my ex wife. And I'm still reasonably friendly with my ex in laws, and I've got great in laws, and my family. It was something to kind of pull them through all of this.
Yeah.
But Yeah, it's a lot, and I would encourage anybody who's thinking about it to make sure they put in all of the work before going there, because it
Yeah.
can be pretty easy, but it's also tremendously difficult and
Yeah.
definitely hard on kids, and I don't take that lightly. I'm really lucky. I've got 5 very successful, very well-adjusted kids, but again, I give that credit to the women involved. I mean, I
Mm,
think I've done okay too, but my ex-wife and my wife did an amazing job of kind of protecting them through this whole process.
yeah. Well, I appreciate you sharing that because I think it is just we underestimate, right? Like the toll that that takes on another
Oh,
guy, right? And like you said, it's still you still maybe view that as your biggest failure, and so it's not like there's still scars, right? And I think
oh
being
yeah,
able to share what you've learned with other guys is super helpful.
yeah.
And
I mean, I've had COTs about that, if I'm
hmm
really honest.
yeah,
Because it's hard to forgive yourself.
yeah,
We'll get to religion here in a little bit, but I
mm,
have, developed, some grace, and I really believe in giving others grace and my children grace and my wife grace. And at some level, I give myself some grace.
mhm.
And yet, I mean, it's a scar that is deep that there isn't a day that goes by that I don't have some pretty deep regret.
Yeah. What would be curious and kind of put you on the spot. What are some other failures? Any other scars that you feel like you would share that other guys could learn from? You don't have to if you don't want to, but
Yeah,
just curious.
no, I mean, that is by far my biggest. Anytime as a parent, you're like, oh God, I blew that. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I think I probably have had a few misses with my kids. I got a 16-year-old daughter.
Uh-huh.
I mean, in middle school, and, as she had some hormonal changes and stuff, like, I don't know that I always handled that
Yeah.
perfectly.
I'm terrified for that,
But
man.
we've got a good relationship now. Um, but yeah, it's just some challenges with my kids. I mean, I have a complex family.
Mhm.
I don't talk to my father much. He's in Hawaii. I mean, that's another failure. I'm doing my part more so than my siblings. But I mean, I have a very complex family, and I'm the oldest of 3 siblings.
Mhm.
I'm the oldest of my generation, if you will. So I put a lot of pressure on myself to kind of try and lead in family healing and these sorts of things, and I'm failing at that. But still trying to show up every morning,
Yeah.
literally and figuratively.
Yeah. Well, and you're in a profession that has you sort of as a healer, right? And so then
Yeah,
every day you're dealing with other people's, illness and tragedy
yeah.
and all of that. How do you do that? For guys that maybe work in a profession where they're, essentially, and I don't know, maybe most guys view themselves this way, but you're solving other people's problems, right? So how do you not take that home with you? What's been your secret there?
Oh man, it's hard. I mean, F3's made that easier because I used to take that
Mm,
stuff home with me and sort of just bury it. You know what I
mhm,
mean? Like, try not to bring it home. My wife is in medicine. She's a PA
mm,
by training, and so on the one hand, that's a blessing, but it's also a curse. Like, she understands it,
yeah,
so I can talk to her about it. And for a while, I wouldn't talk to her about it because I didn't want to bring that stuff home. At some level, maybe talk about it a little bit at F3, but not really. It's just a place to go kind of burn it off, if you will.
yeah,
So that's been good. But I'll tell you, just being in my line of work gives me a lot of perspective because, when people are dying, that brings out the best and the worst
mhm,
in families, and so I witness that every day, and it gives me some perspective in my own family, but maybe gives some of the other PAX members. We all think we have a great family, and we also have some drama in our families, and man, it's out there.
yeah. Yeah, I'm with you too on a lot of the family stuff. I was just on another different podcast, the F3 Nation High Impact Man podcast, and the the guy on there was asking me, "How's your relationship with your dad?" And I'm like, "Not good,"
Yeah.
So he had recommended this book called Fathered by God. It's a John Eldridge book that
Hmm.
I'm reading through. It's interesting because I think as men, as fathers, we do have some responsibility to kind of progress our kids through certain milestones, and that, but then of course if you don't, right, we're all just kind of doing the best we have with the information that we have at the time. And so then if, like I'm thinking about my kids and like, am I progressing them? And, so there's a lot of opportunities for us to feel down and guilty. But you mentioned faith. So we'd love to kind of segue and get your story.
What's it like to love your dentist? Well, you're about to find out, where healthy smiles go beyond your teeth. No drilling, no needles, and no anxiety. Relax, it's Omaha Laser Dentistry. Welcome to better. At Omaha Laser Dentistry, Dr. Bullenparty uses the Solea laser, a CO2 laser that's used in all of his day-to-day patient care. He provides thorough exams, assessments, and treatments for things like snoring, tethered tissue, and extractions like wisdom teeth, as well as other surgeries. Check him out today at omahalaserdentistry.com. Discounts may be available for F3 Omaha members.
What's been kind of your journey from a faith perspective? Like, how has that developed over your life?
Yeah, so great question. So I was raised Catholic,
Okay.
and we were pretty good Catholics, going to church most Sundays, and I went to Catholic grade school. I went to Catholic high school. I went to, Creighton University.
Mm-hmm.
So the Jesuit influence as well. And, faith has always been an important part of my life. I will tell you that my divorce greatly complicated that. To be a divorced Catholic is challenging.
Yeah.
I'm not perfect, but I'm a rule follower by nature. And so, the idea of, not receiving communion as a divorced Catholic was real for me. And that really complicated things. I mean, at the time, my kids were little and I still took them to Catholic church, but I felt like I couldn't receive communion.
Hmm.
And yet they wouldn't go to communion alone. And it was just me in the pew with them. So, I mean, I'd, guide them up there and, not take communion. And that's kind of embarrassing. That's a, big pill to swallow, but I would do it for them to get them there. So, I developed a little resentment. And then I met my wife and we started going to her Lutheran church. And, I can remember going to meet the pastor and introducing myself and just getting this really big warm welcome. And, all are welcome to, receive communion. And it was just really welcoming. And that's where I got kind of introduced to this idea of grace. But then, that pastor retired and the church kind of found some other problems, which I won't get into.
Mm-hmm.
And so we've kind of been without a church for a little while.
Okay.
And so we've been kind of looking around a little bit, but this has come up. So I've had a couple of PAX members like, hey, you got to come to our church.
Mm-hmm.
And, these are the reasons why, not just because they're there, but it's a great church. So anyway, we are transitioning to Water's Edge.
Oh, cool.
Kind of on the invitation of Escobar and Cadbury, and Mulch is there and Hungry Man is there, and
Yeah.
I know I'm missing a couple. But
Cadbury's a pastor there, right?
Yeah, Cadbury's a pastor
Youth
there.
pastor there, yeah.
Yeah, and a huge thing for us is, children's programming.
Yep.
We want our kids to have that influence. I mean, my wife, was a Sunday school teacher at her prior church, and that's really important to her. And it was kind of falling away at that church, but Cadbury does a phenomenal job at Water's Edge. You can just tell, and he's great with the kids. And no, we're super thrilled to be joining Water's Edge.
That's awesome. It's so encouraging hearing that journey, and I love just the continued like searching that you describe, because I hear a lot of guys, right, that sort of get to a point and then it's like they get discouraged, and then they stop searching, and that's sort of always been my my plea is like, don't stop searching, like find, because unfortunately all churches are full of sinners too, right? There's not a perfect church out there. And so I think just find a community that can help you grow in your relationship with God. So what would you say, because it sounds like this was really difficult, right? I mean, you essentially went through a time where your church in a way felt like maybe disowned you, or was kind of putting up a barrier of some sort. But how
Yeah.
did you what was that search like for you? Like, I guess, what would you say to guys that are maybe in that middle spot and maybe discouraged with that process of finding another church? Any insight there?
Yeah. I mean, I've been through it twice, right? So the whole Catholic thing, getting divorced and kind of falling away from the Catholic Church. Um, my wife meeting my wife helped me with that,
Mhm.
and so going to her church and intentionally going and meeting the pastor and, feeling welcome and all of that. And then to have him retire and the other pastor kind of get fired, and I'll leave it at that.
Wow.
And that was my wife's church forever. So that was hard on her, but hard on us. And then, we just kind of started asking around and looking around, and we found ourselves going to a couple of other churches, but just not kind of feeling just right. But I mean, talking about it,
Mm.
asking about it. Again, it was, I mean, I'll give Escobar the credit, although I think Cadbury was kind of in my ear a little bit too. And, they're both runners, and I'm out there, pre running with them. And, it was very good conversation. It wasn't just, you need to come here because I'm here.
Right.
It's, you need to come here because this is a great church. And, oh, you
Mhm.
got kids, and we got great children's programming. And, we're a very, pretty diverse in terms of, age groups and all of these other things. I mean, it checked off all of the boxes. And, to be welcome, number one, again, it was, hey, we're going at this time on this Sunday. You need to join us.
Yeah.
And, it wasn't the first invitation that we were there.
Yeah.
It was probably the third or the fourth, but we made it happen. And our kids feel welcome there. My wife feels comfortable there. Um, but to be willing to, again, be vulnerable, like I'm searching for this, and then to listen, and to trust, and then to follow through,
Yeah.
it can happen.
Yeah. Yeah, I love it, and kudos to those guys for, sparking the conversation. That's something that my hope is, right? F3 is a space where we can openly talk about faith without judgment or expectations, or, like, I love how you said it wasn't just like, come to this church because, I'm a pastor there, or because I go there, right? It was like, no, this is a good spot for you to be a part of the
Right.
community. I love it. What do you think it is you think about, the third F, right? We also have a lot of stuff that we do in the community within F3. Have you had a chance to do any of those events, or what's been your experience with kind of that community service side of the third F?
Yeah. So, I mean, I have, and I mean, I want to give myself some credit. I mean, I've been part of some of the Project Pink sort of things. Brick builder just hasn't worked out for me. Invariably, I've been working. I work a lot of weekends. I work 17 or 18 weekends out of the year, so that kind of complicates things for me. Um, but it's been huge. I mean, I've gone to some of the events. I mentioned Project Pink and poker, and the cousin Eddie Ruck is always a good time.
Yeah.
And I hosted that one year at my house, and we had a fabulous time.
Nice.
Um, but coffee, even just coffee is so, I love coffee. That's why I started on-site coffee at the Labyrinth.
Mhm.
And, because you can get just a couple more guys to stick around if it's on site. No, you'll just be here 10 or 15 minutes, but just that 10 or 15 minutes of conversation, after the COT and prayer, some important things happen there as well. So I've
Mhm.
really, on the one hand, I've engaged in the fellowship, and yet I want to do more.
Yeah, I love it. I think, as you were saying that, I just had an idea that we should find a way to do this 50K. Like, we could add a second and third F sort of element to it, right? I'm sure, like, coming into, like, right before Thanksgiving, there's got to be some charity that we could, for
Yeah.
every mile, we'll do, maybe it's a couple cans of food, or I don't know. We'll have to figure that out.
Yeah. I'll be really honest with you. I was thinking about doing that with, the 50K that I'm putting together, but I
Yeah.
kind of thought, all right, I'm just going to make sure number one, I get this done.
Yeah.
If there's another crazy PAX member out there who's willing to take it on
Yeah.
with me, man, I'd love to have him join me.
Yeah.
But even if I run the first whatever it turns in, 19, oh my gosh, 18 miles, and
Yeah.
then I join the half marathoners, like, that's great. That'll still pull me through, you
Yeah.
know what I mean? But my point is, I kind of thought, well, let's just see if this flies. Let's see if
Yeah.
this
Yeah.
goes.
I love it.
And then absolutely, I'd even take the lead in trying to make this some sort of fundraising effort.
Yeah. We'll have to figure that out. I do want to get your thoughts on leadership though, right? So we talk about invigorating male community leadership as our mission, right? And I think you had a chance to do a VQ and then to lead a site, and I already love what you shared about the on-site coffee. But and obviously you lead your family well. You're a leader in your organization. What does leadership look like to you? And then I guess how in F3, how are we doing kind of equipping men to lead? What do you think?
Yeah. So, I mentioned listening already.
Hmm.
I really think that F3 has turned me into a better listener.
Oh, wow.
I'm not afraid to speak. But I think F3 again has turned me into a better listener and an active listener, if you will. And I think that's important in leadership. Um, I try to be, I have VH'd a couple of people, and under pit stops leadership, I haven't done as good a job as he did, but really try to continue to encourage, involvement. And I think that is important in leadership as we're, hiring somebody, or, we're promoting somebody, or these sorts of things. And then, I've really tried to kind of lead by example, and I've had that shown to me in F3 repeatedly.
Mm,
And I think I brought that with me to my work as well.
nice. I love it. What about
Yeah.
being a site Q? Any advice or insight for guys that are currently taking over a flag?
Yeah. Man, that was the best experience.
Yeah.
It was. I mean, I was, kind of excited and kind of nervous to be taking the flag. I lament the fact that I didn't get a little bit more involved with, true leadership while
Mm,
I had the flag, attending some of the sector meetings and these sorts of things. It just, again, I can make a lot of excuses, but working a lot of weekends, and a
yep.
lot of those Saturday mornings I was working and
Mhm.
whatever. But just to have the flag, and I mean, honestly, it was so easy to find people to queue, and I was kind of strategic about it. And, adding, on-site coffee added another level, and that hadn't been done at the Labyrinth. And Snickers has the flag right now, and I was just texting with him this morning. I mean, he's kind of got an effort underway to kind of make the Labyrinth his own, and I'm super stoked about that. And yeah, it was just an amazing experience, and I really enjoyed it.
I love it. Yeah, the on-site coffee, that's a huge deal. Makes a huge difference. I love that. It can be a lot of work though. I don't know if did you find you just have to go to bed earlier or prepare the night before? What was your strategy?
So I kind of prepared the night before. I mean, I have a 12 cup and 14 cup coffee maker,
Okay.
and I'd program the night before. And then, yes, I'd have to get up maybe 20 minutes early, which you're already getting up early for a 4:55 pre.
Hmm.
But man, I was committed to it. So I'd get up 20 minutes early. The first ones would be brewed, dump those in, brew two more pots, and run out the door. And I made it work almost every week. I didn't do it the whole time frame,
Yeah.
but through a good portion of it, and I really enjoyed it.
Yeah. And any thoughts or words of wisdom? Because the lab is or the labyrinth is a running site, right? So kind of in that specialty AO kind of category, but any
Yeah.
learnings there for some guys with
Well,
specialty sites?
I mean, it's a running site, but we do a lot of string of pearls,
Hmm.
and which is, it's a at the end of the day, it's a pretty easy workout to put together,
Yep.
and it's one that can be pretty easily modified, depending upon who shows up on that Thursday morning, the distance in between, and all of these sorts of things. So It was a great site for me. Yeah, it's a specialty, running site. But I think we did a pretty good job of modifying when we
Yeah.
needed to modify.
And do you invite the Maze guys up for shared coffee
Yeah.
or the
Yeah,
okay.
so we did, yeah, several times the Mazers, would come up too. It was kind of a smattering. Some guys, like to go to Starbucks, and that
Yeah,
was fine
want their
too, but,
foo-foo Starbucks drink, right?
no, they'd come up the hill and join us as well, which was great, it just kinda they're interconnected, the 2
Yeah.
sites, so, that worked out well as well.
Yeah, I always love the if you're at the maze and the labyrinth guys find you, right, and then do a bunch of monkey humpers or some,
Yep,
just kind of
yep.
that back and forth between the 2
Well,
different.
and I live on the maze, so there's been a lot of monkey humpers
Yeah.
done in my driveway over the last couple years, let me tell you.
Oh, that's awesome.
But
Hopefully
but
you
I
have a
gotta tell you,
camera, right?
you brought up my VQ, and I wanna talk about that just for a minute
Yes,
because
please.
there's a message that comes with my VQ. Um, and so for my VQ, it again was at the Labby. It was, long before I knew I was going to be taking over the flag at the Labyrinth.
Mhm.
But I set it up such that, one of the pearls was in my backyard. So we
Oh, wow.
literally did, a stop in my backyard, and we did monkey humpers in my backyard, and 3 or 4 other. But here was the message of my VQ and my COT, and this is the case for years. I would be awoken at like 5:45 in the morning because a group of guys were in my backyard doing side straddle hops or doing something else, and I'd be awoken and I'm like, gosh, who is that? And for literally for years. And the whole time I thought it was like some cross-training gym or something like that, and like
Mhm.
I didn't take the initiative to find out. But,
Mm.
again, something was missing in my life when F3 found me, quite honestly. And my message of that COT was to say, and this is the case, if something's missing in your life, start by looking in your own backyard.
Mm. Yeah.
Because it was right
Love it.
there all along,
Yeah.
and I didn't look hard enough to know it.
Yeah. Oh, man, I'll have to, figure out where it is that you live on the, near the maze because 'cause I'm not sure where you're at, but yeah, we probably were right by your house several times.
Well, I got TP'd last week, so I don't know if I want everybody knowing
Oh,
my
yeah.
address.
By
So
F3
that's
guys
a
or
It's a Scott thing. So
oh,
I've
okay.
got 2 kids at Scott, and, for homecoming, they TP this junior and senior homes that are participating.
Oh,
So,
that's
yeah,
funny.
we got it pretty good last, Thursday night.
Oh, that's funny. Well, I love it. This has been great, and we didn't, get to talk about hedge fund. I guess
Yeah.
anything you'd share about how that's been
Oh.
having him involved?
So I have to tell you 2 stories about F3 and family. So, getting hedge fund in the end of his junior year, and then, he kind of came sporadically during his senior year, but that summer between his senior year and his freshman year of college is really where he posted.
Mm,
And kind of got to know some F3 guys, and it was so good for him because he was such an introvert. And I'm telling you, it helped prepare him for college,
mm,
joining F3 and posting and being around men who probed a little bit and got him talking. And I was so proud of him when he did his VQ. And he did his VQ, and I didn't even do the math, but it was the Thursday before Father's Day.
oh, wow.
And he sent a really good message to the PAX that were there that morning, that he's so amazed by these men who have full-time jobs and are fathers, and yet they post in the morning. And he's like, I don't know how you get it done. I mean, he's tired just waking up to go
Mhm.
post, and then he goes and
I
takes a
think I
nap.
was there for that. I remember that now that you're saying that.
It was really meaningful to me, and I
Mm,
had no idea that that was, the message of his COT. But I mean, we set such a good example for, boys, men his age. He's now running 7, 8, 9 miles at a time. He
mm,
wants to run a half marathon next spring.
wow,
And, this is a kid who kind of just spent time on his phone leading up to this.
wow.
So I'm telling you, I don't think we fully realize what an example we are setting for our teenagers, even our younger kids. I mean, my 5-year-old can't wait to be an F3 guy,
Yeah.
but he thinks you have to have tattoos to be an F3 guy because, as it turns out, I'm a little tatted up. And so he'll draw on his arms like I'm going to be an F3 guy,
That's funny.
which is pretty hilarious. But my other son, who's a senior this year, is Reaper,
Okay.
F3 Reaper.
Nice.
But the other thing that F3 can do, and I know we're short on time, it can be healing.
Hmm.
So my brother, F3 Skeeter, lives in Italy, and he's a former F-16 pilot. He's now over there, civilian flight instructor, and I mean, he's a stud. But he's kind of heard me talk about F3. He happened to be home over the summer, and out of nowhere, he surprised me one morning and just showed up at Wild Kingdom and posted. And, my brother and I have had, kind of typical sibling rivalry, and just with my family dynamics and stuff, we've had some issues. But I'm telling you, him showing up at F3, posting, sharing his story. Escobar came up with the best F3 name ever,
Yeah.
Skeeter, who's
Skeeter, yeah.
another,
Another
character
Doug
on
character,
Doug.
and it's a play on the pilot, right?
And it's a play. We absolutely got bit up that morning by the mosquitoes at
Oh,
Wild
yeah.
Kingdom. It was just like a slam dunk. It was absolutely brilliant. They were all trying to get him a cool stick name, which he's already got. And Escobar dropped Skeeter, and I was like, oh, it's
Yeah.
perfect. But I'm telling you, it was true, kind of healing for he and I. And so the four of us posted in Italy on Thursday morning and did a String of Pearls in Italy 7 hours before String of Pearls was done at the Labyrinth. So, I mean, this whole thing's a little bit cheesy, but it was just really good. And I did the COT that morning in Italy, talking about, the impact of brothers and how important, brotherly relationships are. And it's really been meaningful for my family.
Heck yeah, that's really cool. It is so cool hearing, and there are so many more stories, that I would love to if more guys would share that, because I think just not only just the father son stuff, but just being able to reconnect with your brother. I often sometimes I wonder, like, would I my dad or my brothers the same way I do the guy at the Hy-Vee down the street or whatever, and I don't know. My answer is not always yes, but I bet if they came, I would have a similar experience to like what you're
Yeah.
saying. So I love that you shared that. Man, this is again just been so awesome, and I just appreciate your leadership and just the example that you are for many guys in F3 and in our community, and your kids, and just thinking about just how wide that reach is. I would be curious, as you're thinking about just current state, where do you need prayers or encouragement or support if we see it out there? What should we be kind of checking up with you on to kind of see how things are going?
It's funny. It just naturally happens. So I injured my shoulder last Wednesday night after running at the Catalyst. It
Oh.
was a silly, like, home improvement thing at home, but um, it's actually Tater Tot's fault. It was at Wild Kingdom. He did a beatdown that was running and burpees, and that's all it was. And I got paired up with Brad Pitt, who kicked my butt.
Yeah, and
This
he's like 70.
70-year-old
Yeah,
guy.
yeah,
Respect, respect, respect. Or I think he's almost 69 or 70. Anyway,
yeah.
just kicked my butt. But anyway, it aggravated a shoulder injury that got re-aggravated doing a little home improvement thing last Wednesday night. And so I hadn't posted in a few days. And this morning I was at Wild Kingdom again. And I did the 4-mile pre, but because my shoulder's killing me, as they were starting, I told Sandworm, hey, I'm going to just, run, and then I'll join up again for Nemo and the rest of it. And I had like 3 or 4 guys reach out like afterwards, like, hey, dude, are you okay? Like, what's going on? Sorry to hear about your shoulder. Had we known you were going to go run by yourself, we would have joined you, blah, blah, blah. Like, people just reach out, you know what I mean? So yeah, I got like a little injury going on. It's not that big of a deal, but it's going to kind of sideline me a little bit from a traditional beatdown.
Yeah.
I need to get some extra miles in anyway.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
the timing's probably not bad, but it's just amazing how, uh, you know, members of the packs just naturally reach out, looking out for you, looking after one another. sending prayers and all of that. So, honestly, not a whole lot else going on in my life right now. I just need to be out there, be present, stay in my right state of mind. And F3's just had a huge impact on my life.
Yeah, I love it. And guys should be looking out for announcements about the 50K
Yes,
in October.
absolutely. October 26th, if you want to get it on, whether it is, a full marathon. Yeah, if you want to go 31 miles with me, I'm going to be there.
Yeah.
And it'll be something. I've never done an ultra, so I'm kind of looking forward to this.
I love it. Well, I appreciate it, and thanks for your time today. Let's we'll do a little Namo to wrap us up here, and I'll start. Brandon Fleehardy, 39, the plague.
Plague.
Ah!
Bryan Krajicek, 49, Patty
Patty
Mayonnaise.
Mayo, and it's a cough, right? Like
Yeah,
Grills
it's a
is always
cough.
like,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah, Griswold does it the best, and
Yeah.
he actually came up with it. I'm a pulmonologist, so he cough. But oh man, nobody can cough like Griswold.
yeah. I love it. Well, thanks, man. Appreciate your time. Have a good one.
Hey, thanks so much.
Scars on our hands, hope in our chest. We're not defined by the weight of the test. Brothers in step, we carry the flame. Different roads, but the heart beats the same. Every man's got a story to tell. From the valley low to the mountaintop, yeah. Every man's got a story inside. Standing strong, we won't hide. Every man, yeah, every man's got a story. We've been broken, we've been bruised, but we rise again and we don't get to choose. Through the fire, through the fight, every man's story burns in the night. Scars on our hands, hope in our chest. We're not defined by the weight of the test. Brothers in step, we carry the flame. Different roads, but the heart beats the same. On a story to tell, from the valley low to the mountaintop, yeah. Every man's got a story inside. Different roads, but the heart beats the same. Every man's got a story to tell. From the valley low to the mountaintop, yeah. Every man's got a story inside. Standing strong, we won't hide. Every man, yeah, every man's got a story. Every man's got a story. Voices rise like thunder, they roll. Truth in the pain, it's shaping the soul. Chains may rattle, but they break in time. Every man's story is yours and mine. From the struggle to the glory, every man's got a story. In the dark or in the light, we keep marching through the night. Every man's got a story inside. Every man's got a story to tell. From the valley low to the mountaintop hill. Every man to the mountaintop hill. Every man's got a story inside. Standing strong, we won't hide. Every